January 14th. LCCHP is the Lake County Open Space Initiative group of land management partners. We are going to have our partners in Chaffee County also come to that group and kind of continue the conversation of how perhaps to initiate and propose to the board that we focus on wildfire preparation and mitigation in the coming year, doing with an effort of kind of perhaps going after some mapping that Chaffee County has had done for them through CFRI that has been very successful in conducting and facilitating outreach and education through the Chaffee County community. So that will be happening January 14th in the afternoon. Typically the LCCHP meetings happen on the second maybe Thursday of every month, or I think we've even pushed those every other month through COVID because things were in such flux. But it usually happens in the mornings. This one is going to be pushed and proposed to occur in the afternoon of the 14th. And then the Rec Advisory Board has a meeting that evening as well. And they will be talking about recreation planning and process in addressing some of our facilities. And I will be joining that group as well to kind of talk about how, you know, the CWPP or Community Wildfire Protection Planning process, I think would be a great start to an overall rec planning and rec management and forest health management for the county. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any community informational items to share today?
I do not.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have any additional community informational items to share at this point. And so with that, maybe we can move into Commissioner clarifications. Do you have anything today, Commissioner Glenn?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
I don't have any clarifications, no. But I do, sorry, I do have the Moderna video on vaccinations queued up. I see Colleen is on here. So I think at one point in EOC meeting or one of our prior meetings, we thought it might be a good idea to take the time as often as we can to play that 1.5-minute long video for public record and to be recorded for access. So I can do that if and when appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we will move into public comments on items not on the agenda today. And before we get into our public health update in this segment of our agenda, I just would like to open it up to public comments at this time. If you have a public comment, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At that point, we will give you 3 minutes to speak and share your public comment. This is not an opportunity to incorporate a discussion with the board, but rather to share public comment, and the board will do their due diligence to follow up. And we do ask that you keep your public comments respectful. So with that, does anybody have any public comments that they'd like to share today? If you are on the phone, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6 or pressing *9 to raise your hand. Okay, so with that, we will go ahead and move into our next segment during this public comment piece, where our Public Health Director, Colleen Nielsen, will give us an update on the county's COVID response and our vaccination process. So I'm going to hand it over to Colleen. And Colleen, you can share with Sarah when it would be appropriate to share that Moderna video. So Colleen, I'm going to hand it over to you.
We can't hear you, Colleen, or at least I can't. Uh-oh.
Okay. She might have had some issues with audio. Sarah, if you would like to start your video, that might be the best way to go, and then she'll hop back on. Oh, there she is.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
I can.
Great, and yeah, sorry, I see that you have the video queued up. Please feel free to share that, and then I'll talk after.
Sarah, I can't hear the audio on the video.
Okay, let's see if
It all started with isolation of the virus from an infected patient in China. The coronavirus was sequenced and its genetic information was uploaded to a public database. Working together, scientists at the NIH and Moderna identified the sequence for a key protein on the surface of the virus called the spike protein as a good vaccine candidate. The instructions for making the spike protein were then encoded into an instruction molecule called mRNA, which could be administered directly to patients as a vaccine. The vaccine is injected just like other vaccines. The mRNA is taken to immune cells where it instructs cells to make copies of the spike protein as if the cells had been infected by the coronavirus. Other immune cells, shown here as red and orange figures, are then able to learn about the spike protein and develop ways to protect the person if they ever come into contact with the actual coronavirus. What makes this approach different is that you don't need to make the virus itself to make a vaccine, a time-consuming and intensive process. Instead, you use the information from the virus and administer the information directly to the patient. Essentially, the patient makes their own vaccine. This cuts out the middleman. Using this approach, NIH and Moderna were able to go from sequence to a vaccine ready for human testing in record time, just 42 days.
You want to know why running on the treadmill 7 days a week?
Thanks, Sarah. Colleen, would you like to jump in and give us an update?
Yeah, absolutely. So the video that you just saw is on the Moderna vaccine, which is the vaccine that Lake County is currently receiving. We have received 200 doses up to this point. We're expecting more this week, hopefully another 200. We're still working through our first responder population. I know that there's been a lot of questions on who goes next, as well as on December 30th, there was a shift in incorporating folks over 70 and some essential workers in our first phase. At this point in time, we will reach out and communicate to folks as we work through that phase. We're not ready to open it up. We're still working with our first responder population. We're also waiting to see if both Rocky Mountain Family Practice and St. Vincent Health get authorized to be able to administer vaccine in this phase 1. Currently, public health is the only certified administrator of COVID-19 vaccine. And like I said, at this point in time, we're getting 100 doses. We're anticipating 200 this week, and we're working on scheduling folks and working through that. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to our public health office at 719-486-2413, as well as find us on social media to see where we're at. I totally appreciate the enthusiasm for folks who are looking to be vaccinated. That definitely makes me feel great to know that our county is ready to get in line and get their vaccines. So I do ask that you be patient, as this is a slow rollout. And when you think about that first phase, that's the winter. We're only just in winter at this point in time. And the vaccines have only been rolling out for 2 weeks. And so we appreciate all of the phone calls and being able to provide information. We just ask folks to be patient, and we'll work through that. Like I said, once we have more information about whether or not there are other providers who can vaccinate, hopefully we'll have the ability to bring more vaccine into this county and work through those phases as best as possible. So we appreciate patience. as we work through this. And we continue to do all the work that is public health. We still do immunizations and family planning and birth and death certificates, as you know, well as blood lead. And so we also still have folks who are getting COVID-19. So we're still contact tracing and case investigating folks. And luckily we have a very strong staff now for some of those pieces that my nursing staff has been able to shift into vaccination mode. But it's still that recognition of so much day-to-day continues even on top of this COVID-19 response. So thank you for your patience. Any questions?
Colleen, this is Commissioner Mudge. I don't have any questions, but I just, to reiterate, I think what I've been telling people who ask is, there are certainly priority groups, and in the 1A, the 1B, and some of that, some of those lists of those groups are changing, not things unanticipated where anybody's going to be removed from a group, but, they're slowly maybe adding some groups, and I don't know how likely that is to keep happening. But, I've just been communicating that we are only getting a certain amount of vaccines. We have priority groups within the priority groups of trying to get to folks. And I know you all at Public Health, Jane and Kaylee, have been really great at managing that scheduling. And also, those who fall in those groups to kind of be waiting in the wings. I know one of our last conversations at the EOC meeting was to think ahead for those groups that we are then prioritizing locally within 1A and 1B to fill in where scheduling might, we might need folks to come in. So no dose, I don't think, is getting wasted. And if anybody has any questions, like you said, to give Public Health a call at the office and leave a detailed message.
No, I can appreciate that, Sarah. And really, to your point, it is changing. It is evolving. This new change of priority groups just happened on December 30th. And as you can imagine, we found out when you found out. And so hopefully that will maybe change in the new year as we receive information. And really, our priority at this point is truly to get through our first responder population, and then really working on our most vulnerable population. And so for us, that truly is that over 70 population. And so that will be the next category that we'll be looking to vaccinate. But like I said, we're still working through the first responder piece. And we will, like I said, if we get more providers online, the best way to do this will be through your primary care provider, because they have all your history. They know the risks and things, so as well as that continuity of care. So we will reach out once we kind of know those things. Hopefully we'll have more answers in the next couple of days, and we'll push that out publicly. We'll obviously share that out with this group and others. And to your point as well, Sarah, yes, we're always a week ahead of anticipating vaccine and who's going to receive that. So thank you for that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Are school district employees and employees of Safeway also being prioritized in some of these first waves after we get the emergency responders?
So when you talk about waves, so basically our next group that we be, no, I think it's great. I think that's where it's at. Where it gets messy is if you start picking and choosing, we're going to do 8 of these groups all at once versus we're looking at our most vulnerable population, which is age 70 and up as determined through the feds down to the state to the local. So we won't be mixing groups, if that makes sense. It won't, unless we are very much, blessed, if you will, with we got 1,000 vaccines and then that's not an issue. But when we're getting 100 at a time, you can imagine, how tricky that is. And even looking at our over 70 population, we know that population alone is, 500 plus. So when we think about that, that could be 5 weeks out before we get to that next group, if you will, in the sense of, frontline workers. I'd rather project far out and be wrong and be able to call people in earlier, if you will.
Right. Thanks, Colleen. Do you have a communication plan to all of those groups of people?
So we do. So far we are working, because as you can imagine, some of these new phase 1 folks were just introduced on the 30th, and we are just back on into our offices now on the 4th. So it's only been a couple of days since that's come out. And so we will work on how we do that. We obviously recognize for over 70 who have providers, we'll rely on their providers, and then we'll message through there. We'll use the senior center and all of our contacts through that. And then we will reach out. We do have a communication plan that we'll add on to for these other groups. As Sarah mentioned, Kaylee has been kind of our point of contact for reaching out to groups as appropriate. And the more that we can kind of keep it focused, the more effective we're going to be in the sense of reaching out to these different groups and trying to figure out, how we get them in, how we get them scheduled. And so we are looking at a lot of those things this week, and we'll update that plan as appropriate.
Cool. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Colleen at this point on any of the information shared today? All right. Well, thank you very much, Colleen. I sure appreciate your time and appreciate the information that you bring to us. It's really helpful.
Thank you for your time.
All right. So with that, we will move into our new business. So first on our agenda today is Resolution 2021-01, a resolution in the matter of increasing the salary for the position of District Attorney in the 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Commissioner Mudge, I believe you had been working on that. Is that correct?
Sorry, when I share my screen, everything moves around a little bit to unmute. Yes, I have been in those conversations with the other counties in the 5th Judicial District. And most of the other counties have already approved the language. This would be divided up. The additional salary on top of the statutory amount that is allocated for the DA will then be split as our overall budget is currently split by a formula across the counties. That formula results in Eagle and Summit County by population and demand of services taking on most of the brunt of that expense. Lake County approximately has 7% responsibility for the overall district, 5th Judicial District budget. And so what I've pulled up on the screen is what I understand from Eagle County as being the latest version of the resolution to add, to appropriate more dollars to the DA's salary to make it effective, to make the salary, $143,684.12. This needs to be decided upon before swearing in of new elected officials on the 12th. And I think Eagle County is having their meeting tomorrow on this. So barring any, I don't anticipate, and they responded to me that they don't anticipate any large changes. They made some changes in this, changing where shalls to mays and some language like that. So I would propose that we entertain this and in a motion include, the condition of approval on the final language that comes out and is agreed upon by the 5th Judicial District and those other counties.
All right. I don't think that I have any further questions or information on this. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments on this resolution? And Commissioner Mudge, I do have the one that Patty has edited for us as well that I can just pass along.
Would you like me to read this into the record?
Yes. Did you
Okay.
want the one with our information in it?
Yeah, that
Okay.
that would work.
Let me send it to you here.
Yeah, let me-
Okay. If you want to share that and read that into the record, that'd be great, if you could.
Okay. All right, resolution 2021-01, in the matter of increasing the salary for the position of district attorney in the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Whereas the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office serves the citizens of Clear Creek, Eagle, Lake, and Summit counties. And whereas Colorado Revised Statute 20-1-301 set the salary for the elected district attorneys for 2012 and each year thereafter at $130,000. Subsection 1C of this provision provided that the fourth legislative session thereafter, the House of Representatives and the Senate shall review the compensation of DAs to make recommendations regarding compensation. And whereas the House of Representatives and Senate did not review the compensation of district attorneys or make any adjustment to base salary in 2016 or 2020, and whereas other elected county office salaries were statutorily adjusted and increased in 2015 through Senate Bill 15-288, now codified as CRS 30-2-102, and whereas CRS 20-1-301-1B provides that if a DA is paid additional compensation beyond the base salary set across the state, the amount in excess shall be set by the board or boards of county commissioners of the county or counties comprising the judicial district. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Lake County desire to increase the salary for the position of district attorney to $143,684.12, recognizing the lack of pay adjustment to the DA's district attorney over the past 8 years and recent increases given to other elected county officers. And whereas the mechanism for determining the increase of the salary for the position of district attorney has been calculated using the same method as specified in CRS 30-2-102 3.2b with the following deviations. Prior to January 1st, 2021, and prior to January 1st, each 4 years thereafter, the commissioners of each of the 4 counties shall adjust the amount of the annual salary for the position of district attorney. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Lake, State of Colorado, that the salary for the position of district attorney in the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office shall be $143,684.12 that the salary shall become effective on the new term of the district attorney commencing on the second Tuesday of January 2021 and shall continue to January 13, 2025. That the salary increase must be approved by all counties comprising the 5th Judicial District before becoming effective, and the increase shall be included by the district attorney in her annual budget approved by the counties and apportioned according to other costs of the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office. That the board hereby finds, determines, and declares that this resolution is necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the County of Lake, State of Colorado. Moved, read, and adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Lake, State of Colorado, at its regular meeting held this 4th day of January 2021. I think I might just suggest making that a may, because it is determined by the overall or all counties, in the 5th Judicial District. based on their approval every election year. But other than that, I don't have any comments and have not heard any other specifics from the other counties with other changes.
That would be appropriate with me. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions, concerns, or comments on the resolution at this point?
The only thing I have to say, that was elected county commissioner, or I'm sorry, district attorney, knew what the salary was when they decided to run. Changing things after the fact to me is inappropriate. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner Mudge, do you have any additional comments or concerns or questions at this point?
No, I don't. You know, as with any newly elected position or person into any position, I think, you know, as a county and partners, we need to certainly do our best to reach out to Heidi as newly elected DA. And, you know, a year or two ago, all of the counties got together and agreed that we really needed to revisit the budget of the DA's office collectively. And so those conversations have improved as far as getting scheduled and occurring. So I would just say, let's just be in close contact with our partners and, you know, through the SIMS mapping and our effort to really understand resources across Lake County in particular, I'm happy to see Heidi, you know, joining that conversation, and we just need to be sure that the office, among other partners, are definitely involved and provide their input.
Thank you, Commissioner Mudge. So I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. So these conversations have been happening within the entire district, and you've been participating in those in regards to the salary for that position, correct?
This one, yeah, there was one meeting at the beginning of December, and they have not convened, but there was back and forth on emails of what the proposed language would look like. And in that meeting at the beginning of December, you know, a lot of folks relied on Summit and Eagle County's response and feedback because of the bigger impact to their budget. And really the discussion just circled around that financial impact.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't have any further questions at this time, and I will entertain a motion if appropriate.
Okay. I'll move to approve resolution number 2021-01 in the matter of increasing the salary for the position of district attorney in the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office, making one small change in the last whereas of replacing shall with may, adjust the amount of the annual salary for the position of the district attorney's office. No, that's it.
I will second. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion at this point?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge, do you have any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I failed to include in my motion. I'd like to amend the motion to include the approval of the language included to coincide or match that of the other counties in the 5th Judicial District.
Okay. All right, so Can you state your full motion?
Sure.
Can you make a motion to, I think what we need to do here is we already have one motion on the table. So we would need to vote on that motion and then amend the previous motion.
I think voting on the amendment of the motion and then voting on
Okay.
the amended motion technically,
Okay.
or I can rescind it all and try again.
Why don't you rescind your motion and restate it?
Okay. I move to approve resolution number 2021-01 in the matter of increasing the salary for the position of the district attorney in the Colorado 5th Judicial District Attorney's Office, contingent upon the approval and similar language passed by the fellow counties in the 5th Judicial District of Clear Creek, Eagle, Lake, and Summit. And also in changing the last whereas, changing shall appearing in the last whereas to may, adjust the amount of the annual salary for position of district attorney.
All right, I will second that motion. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further comments or discussion on the motion on the floor?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
Nope, thank you.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
All right, thank you very much. And we will move on now to number 2, which is ratify the tourism panel contract regarding marketing. And I believe that this comes from the tourism panel, and Commissioner Mudge participates with the tourism panel. So I'm going to let her bring that up and explain it to us.
Okay, so this marketing contract has been budgeted for by the tourism panel, and the board passed this budget. This is a reoccurring contract with Miles Partnership in partnership with the tourism office, Colorado Tourism Office. And the contract is in total for $22,210.50 to do various marketing and promotional advertising approved by the tourism panel.
Commissioner Mudge, does this incorporate appropriate COVID marketing if necessary for any tourism initiatives? Like, will they incorporate that for us in this contract?
That's a good question. I can't really answer that question directly, but it's certainly something that we could bring to the tourism panel and ask them. Their next meeting is on January 11th. What I can say is that the Colorado Tourism Office, I recently learned that they had been having discussions and doing surveys. What the target audience was for that, I am not aware. I was not invited or knowledgeable about that until I think that process was completed. But that process included kind of assessing and collecting information on recreation impacts through COVID and rec management that might be highlighted. And I do know that the contractors for the tourism panel intend to or have included those kinds of communications on, pack it in, pack it out, and kind of recreation etiquette, if you will, on our local tourism site.
Okay. I don't feel like I have any additional questions on this at this point. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments on the Miles Partnership contract?
I do not.
All right. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move to approve the contract with Miles Partnership the official publisher for Colorado Tourism Office, by recommendation of the tourism panel, for $22,210.50.
I'll second that. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Mudge?
I just want to say your question is a good one, Commissioner Marcella, on, and something that I think we have done a good job kind of planting seeds on and questioning through the COVID process of, you know, how the Colorado Tourism Office may be pivoting and changing some marketing strategies to be supportive of the pandemic in particular, and of those hardest hit by this kind of unanticipated travel and tourism that we continue to see in the outdoors. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so with that, I will ask for a vote, and all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much. Number 3 is the agreement for professional services with Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated for county engineering services for building and land use department. This is a renewal of this contract. And so with that, I'm going to have Paul Clarkson briefly walk us through the contract and what the county engineer does for us.
Hi. This contract is an annual contract with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson to provide engineering review services, not necessarily just engineering services. If the county needs an engineer for anything, we can use anybody we like. But in this case, this is an agreement for Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson to act as the county engineer in the review of development proposals, which we are starting to use a lot of again. Are there any questions?
Paul, is this for both land use and building permit reviews, or just building permit review?
Nope, just engineering review for development, for subdivision.
Okay.
Subdivision and occasionally a conditional use permit, but usually just subdivision.
Okay. I don't have any further questions at this point. Did they have a price increase from 2020?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do every year.
Okay.
Standard operating procedure. It always goes up by a few bucks.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't have any further questions at this point. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments for Paul?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
Oh, what is that final agreement? The value there, the cost for this year?
It depends on who they are using. They have surveyors, they've got principals, sheet number,
Oh, okay.
rate sheet, depending on who it is that's being used and equipment that's being used.
Okay. I don't have anything further, so I will entertain a motion at this point.
I don't have the name in front of me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I will go ahead. Go ahead.
I could pull it up for you if you like.
Or Kayla, somebody put some language out there, please. And also, Paul, I will comment while you're pulling that up. Some or all of these expenses are reimbursable from the applicant. Is that true?
There's none of them that aren't. This is strictly a pass-through expense that the developer then agrees that they will actually pay. I'm still pulling this up. Let's go to here. And it's not going to be there.
Paul, it's okay. I can pull up the chat. My apologies. Not thinking on that one.
Oh, that's pretty much what I'm doing.
I'll move to approve a professional services agreement with Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated for county engineering services through the Building and Land Use Department.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion at this point?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right, and none for me. Thank you for doing this for us, Paul. I do appreciate it. So with that, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. All right, so we will move on to number 4, which is an update on court security. And I will give you that update now. It's a pretty brief update at this point. The Sheriff's Office has received a grant for a new X-ray machine and scanner that will be going into the front entryway of the courthouse. And with that new machine comes the need for us to potentially make some adjustments to our building. And so I've met with Paul Clarkson, Michael Irwin, Sheriff Reyes, and one of her admin staff, Tina Tekenzik, to review the size of the X-ray scanner and where the proposed placement of that scanner is going to go. And so it'll go in the front entrance, and we will help traffic flow through that X-ray scanner and then up into the courtroom or into the courthouse building for county business. So the idea is to bring security down from only the courts to the main level of the courthouse and secure the entire courthouse. So we'll need to do some work in the actual courthouse to make that happen. So Paul and I took the dimensions of the X-ray scanner. Michael Irwin has photos of the foyer and the vestibule area of the courthouse. And we have sent those to SEH, the county engineer, to review those with the blueprints of the courthouse building to see if that is something that's feasible. The idea is to potentially remove 2 glass panes by the old BOCC meeting room and put that scanner in that area so that there's still enough space in the vestibule area and so that the egress is not compromised. So we will have our county engineer review that, and then from that review, then we'll have an idea of what we need to do next. But we're still in a preliminary phase of making that adjustment and figuring out the best way to make that work, and definitely need to do our due diligence in making sure that that location is safe and that the building can support those changes because it's a public space. Paul, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that. Or Michael Irwin?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, I don't think I do at this time either.
Okay. We're expecting the X-ray machine to potentially be here towards the end of January. But we won't have an estimated time on the installation of that machine until we go through the proper process of getting the building permit and engineering design from the county engineer first. So we'll have to go through those steps first before we can make that a reality with the sheriff's office. So that's kind of where we're at this point, is we're just in a holding pattern until we get some additional information from the engineer to be able to apply for a permit.
And do we know, was the construction cost included in that grant for the replacement of the security machine?
I don't believe that it was, but I believe that the sheriff's administrative staff is going to go back to court security to see if they would be able to increase the grant award to see if they can cover any of the construction costs. At this point, I don't know that there really is any construction costs. I think it's just the review of the engineering, and we're not anticipating that being a super high cost, correct, Paul?
Well, at this point, I don't know, because in as much as this is public space, it will require a building permit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the work itself is actually going to be very extensive, but there is going to be some couple to a few $1,000s worth of adjustment to the vestibule that'll have to be made. And then be a certain amount of actually engineering review, because since it is public space, it has to be reviewed by a qualified design professional.
So Paul and myself are working through those logistics prior to that machine getting here, and then we'll be able to give the sheriff's office an update of what our next step is. Okay. Prior to just installing it.
And we have the ability, do we have the ability to delay delivery if we aren't prepared to put that machine downstairs?
I don't actually know, but I can ask.
Okay.
I don't know that it is delivered and then set up at the same time. And I don't actually know if there is, like if the company that delivers it sets it up for you. I'm not exactly sure of the logistics, but I can definitely ask.
Yeah, that's another good point. If they expect delivery and then like set up at the same time, should be sure that they understand what the timeline is looking like as far as our readiness, of course, which I'm sure you have in mind. The other question I do have is, whenever this was brought up by prior administrations, one of the biggest challenges was that when they applied they needed an extra position to then have somebody upstairs and then 2 people downstairs manning the X-ray machine, as far as I understood it. We did not discuss additional salaries for this purpose. Is there a plan to address that? Is there a different solution for this? Do we not need to have additional staff?
Kayla, if I might, Commissioner Mudge, I believe that's included within the grant for 2 additional deputies to actually man the X-ray equipment. I'd like to verify that, but I think that was part and parcel of the grant.
Yeah, I'd be curious as you move through this to kind of stay apprised, for the board to stay apprised of, those plans and finances, because I had not, thanks Paul, and I don't know whether that, okay, go ahead, Commissioner Marcel.
Sorry.
I was waiting for you to chime in there.
No, sorry, I just had trouble on meeting. I think that in our conversation with the sheriff, briefly when we looked at the space, they have applied for court security funding for 2 additional court security deputies, and the court security grant itself is very aware of the staffing issues. So I do believe that will be forthcoming, but can find out the specifics on that as well.
Okay, so your understanding is that they've applied but not necessarily been awarded, and that was a separate application from the replacement of the X-ray machine?
Yes, but I could be mistaken, and I can find out the details as well.
Okay.
Because I believe that you apply to the court security process or fund, I guess, for capital separate from staffing.
Okay.
I got the impression, though, that if the facility can't be manned, then there's no reason for the equipment. So I think that the two actually have been approved, the 2 deputies and the equipment.
Okay, I will just verify that before our next meeting, Sarah, we can put this update on our January 18th meeting as well.
Okay.
And then I can give us an update at that time too, of what's happened between now and then, because I would anticipate that Paul and I may have heard from SEH by that point. And so I should be able to give us an update at that point as well. And I'll ask those questions to give that update then.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm also curious, just because my recollection is that staffing piece was the sticking point of ever pursuing funding for replacement of that machine, or just really even moving the machine downstairs. And with court security and underfunded courts granting, I'd be curious if there's any condition in there, you know, or what the term is of that funding for those staff positions. You know, is it a year or 2, 3, you know, in perpetuity? Do we have to apply for it every year and get approved? So thank you for bringing us back any more detail that you discover.
Yeah, I can absolutely ask those questions and get that level of detail to share out with the board at our next meeting.
Great.
All right. And so with that, we have tabled the minutes. And then we have bills and payroll for pay period ending January 4th, 2021. And I will make a motion that we approve bills and payroll for pay period ending January 4th, 2021.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right, and I don't either. So with that, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much. All right, and so with that, we will approve minutes on January 11th. And as we are ready to adjourn here this afternoon, I just want to take a brief minute to again thank Commissioner Glenn for his participation and for his work in public service. Thank you for serving your community for the past 4 years. It's been a pleasure. And with that, we will adjourn this afternoon at 2:01 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.